In just a couple of moments, we're going to go into the engagement process, how you handle the second appointment, creating a fork in the road in which clients will identify with you and engage your firm for the services provided at the second appointment. Welcome to The Rare Advisor, a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. My name is Mike Walters. I'm the CEO of USA Financial, and I have been thoroughly enjoying a string of conversations I've been having with Matt Eilers, our Chief Business Development Officer. All of the biz dev team reports to Matt because he has really proven himself over the years in this particular category we're talking about. It used to be Matt's job to dive deep on all the coaching and mentoring. Now we have a whole team to do that here at USA Financial, both with the business development team as well as with what we call our protocol team. And the conversations we've had prior to this, if you haven't dialed in, I would encourage you to go back and backfill because you'll enjoy this even more if you do. We've talked about the appointment process and how it is such an important string of events that takes place in your practice. It's really the assembly line to bring new assets and new clients to the firm. And we spent our last two discussions dissecting the first appointment and how vital and crucial that is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the second appointment, which is where you're going to kind of button things up. This is how you're going to create the fork in the road where people are truly asking to be a part of your practice, wanting to join your firm as a customer. And it's really exciting. It's where the rubber hits the road, as they say. And so with that being said, Matt, I'm going to let you set the stage for the second appointment, and then we'll start to dive deep on that.
Thanks, Mike. It's good to have the discussion rolling here. We've been really geeking out over this stuff for a good hour now, but it's been fun. And I think it's so fun because you and I, we know this stuff actually works. We know that if advisors will work on these elements of their business and they'll put the time into refining their processes, it can make a tremendous impact in elements of their practice. And what we've seen and what we're about to talk about here today is, I think, an area that if you spend some time in how you engage people in, a second appointment is the example that we're going through. If you really refine that process and you get really good at drawing a line in the sand and asking for a commitment of the client, it can change your practice. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit about what I'll go out and I'm going to put this out there. And this is a little bit of a bold statement, but I think this is probably the single most important tool that USA Financial has ever created in its history. And that's the engagement letter. I've seen this little piece of paper generate more fee revenue, assets gathered, introductions than anything else that we've done. And that's what we're going to talk about here today is how the heck advisors are using this and having so much success doing it.
So I don't know if I just had this happen on my end or not, but that was a glitch when Matt was speaking. That was not us trying to keep a secret from you. The word he said was the engagement letter. The engagement letter is really where you differentiate yourself from all other advisors in the marketplace. It doesn't matter if you're charging fees for time and expertise or if you're not charging fees. People are still engaging you for various services, and that when they engage you, they're becoming a customer of the firm. Now, I will say we are huge proponents, huge fans of charging fees for your time and expertise. If you are doing that, you are going to love how all these tools fit right into support of you doing so. If you are not charging fees for time and expertise and you would like to, we can help get you there as well. So it doesn't matter if you are or you're not. The engagement letter is still important because, again, there are different levels of obligation, if you will, different levels of relationship. There's the handshake, the verbal, if you will. Then there's written, and then there's monetary. At the very least, we want to get you to written, and that's what the engagement letter is going to do.
There you go. So let's talk about how do we get to those levels of commitment, right? Could we get all three in an engagement session? The answer is yes.
Sure.
In fact, most advisors we work with are. In fact, close to 70% of the advisors that are affiliated with USA Financial, listen to this number. I mean, that's a high number. Close to 70% are charging upfront fees for their time and expertise. So they're charging fees for plan construction and time and expertise. The reason they're able to do this is because they have service-based business models, and they're really good at drawing a line in the sand before they go and do all the work. They're good at positioning the mountain of work that they're about to do. We call it the mountain of time and money. They're really good at telling this story, and they use the engagement letter, which tons of professionals use engagement letters. We've got one dialed in for you, the advisor, for a financial advisor. We use that as the sword. That is what they go in, and they're able to use that as their closing tool. And by doing that, they're able to get all three levels of that commitment.
Right.
And the beauty of this whole process, Mike, is that you don't have to talk about product once in this engagement meeting. You can get someone to commit to becoming a client of the firm and pay you a fee for the plan that you're going to build, and you don't have to be pitching product. You don't have to talk about it at all this meeting, which that's refreshing.
Yeah. The key is that where a lot of advisors are not structured to be able to do this is because they're coming about it kind of bass-ackwards, if you will. They're creating plans in advance. They're doing work in advance in hopes that it will be so impressive to the client that they'll want to actually do work with them and engage them, and we'll let them sell them something or whatever the case might be. And our contention would be the exact opposite. No CPA is going to complete your taxes until you've engaged them to do so. They're not going to create the tax return in advance and present it to you and hope you're so happy with it that now you want to pay them. Same conversation about attorneys. They're not going to engage in the work and do the work until you've asked them and engaged them in that process. We're just saying that you deserve the same respect in this business. And that's what the customers anticipate. It's when you deviate from that model that they start scratching their head wondering, what is this person doing? What's their ulterior motive? They can't possibly be as good as they say they are, because why are they doing all this work for free and upfront and so on and so forth? And their mind just starts running wild on you. So you really have to set the stage for this. And then the other piece that most advisors are missing is they've never cataloged all of the things they actually do for people and probably don't get any credit for.
Right.
You've probably done things along the lines of a Social Security analysis, but you never called it that, and you never built a system or a service around it. And we could go right on down the list. You've got all of these different naming opportunities that brings the intangible into the tangible. It allows you to breathe life into the work that you do, get credit for it, but now, more importantly, that's why the consumer wants to become a client of yours, because those are the services that they want to be able to benefit from, and currently they're not. So sometimes you'll find that a salesperson maybe did something for them in order to get the sale, but it didn't feel like financial planning, and it wasn't financial planning. Now we're going to flip the table over, and we're truly going to go down a comprehensive planning approach. And in order to do that, we need to include our services as part of the plan.
That's right. And what you said, Mike, that I think is super important that we need to revisit is the naming of those services. We've talked a bit about in this series of discussions we've been having today about the fact that we are in such an intangible environment. Naming a service, naming a process, naming something that we do moves us closer to tangibility, because now it becomes something, right? It's something that we can provide versus just this work that we do that we never get credit for. And also, when you name something, it's yours. And there's a good chance the other guy down the street isn't doing it, and he doesn't have that either. So we have an awesome process for how we can help advisors map out what these services look like, uniquely name them. There's a completely another layer of this that we can get into in regards to branding the actual process for everything they do, which is what we do with the work with our protocol team. And that's, I'm sure other discussions will lend itself to go deeper there. But the importance of naming a process is paramount in doing all this. And one thing I want to back us up for a moment, because what is super critical in this engagement process, right? In a meeting where we're going to ask a client to make a decision, and if we're basing that decision on services that we provide, we need to make sure that they know that they need these services.
Right.
That's going to be pretty important. To think of it this way, let's think of it in a doctor-patient analogy. Let's say you go in and you have your first appointment with a doctor because you got something going. You got aches and pains in the back, right? Your first meeting is very similar to what we talked about in our last segment on our first meeting. It's a lot of Q&A, right? He's asking questions about what's been going on. Maybe reviews your medical history, things of that nature. He's trying to figure out what's going on with you and what's the makeup of you and where have you been, what's brought you to now and what's hurting. In that meeting, he's not making a recommendation yet. He's not saying, hey, we got to slice open your back and do, because he doesn't know. He doesn't know the problem. So that was that first appointment. In between that first and second meeting, the doctor probably sent you off and you had a little bit of a homework list to do yourself. Maybe you had to go to the lab. Maybe you had to go get some tests done, some x-rays, whatever it is. Now you're sitting back in that doctor's office for a second meeting. Here's what doesn't happen. The doctor doesn't march right in and say, Mike, I got bad news. We got to cut your head open and remove something in the back. So let's get that scheduled. No, he doesn't do that. Right. What did he do first? He shows you the tumor. He shows you what's wrong. He reveals your test results to you and helps you understand why you need this operation, why you need the surgery. It doesn't matter if I am the best surgeon at that operation in the whole Midwest. If you come in my office and I say, Mike, I got to cut your head open, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? No, you don't. I don't know that I need that surgery. It doesn't matter how good I am. So we have to be able to create the awareness that these services are performing. Now, to jump out of the medical analogy and jump back into financial planning, we do that through a process called a concern and opportunities report summary. So what we do is we work with advisors to help them digest all of the information that came out of a first meeting and all the information they analyzed from their accounts and the service question answers they received to figure out what are the biggest areas of concern and what are the biggest areas of opportunity. And we go through this process and we arm them with a visual tool to show the client, just like as if they're showing the x-ray, a way to show them, here are the things that need your attention. We have to bring their awareness to the things that need their attention before we start showing off the services. That helps us position the services.
Right. So we're showing them the findings so that they realize what the necessity is and what the concern is and then what the solution is. Right. Now they are excited about engaging you in that solution.
That's right. Yeah. So it's using those in tandem, and it's really a 1-2 punch in this meeting. You can't really use an engagement letter without the concern and opportunities report. And it doesn't make sense to use the concern and opportunities without an engagement letter. It allows you to pivot. And now all of a sudden, when you get into that discussion, you can draw a line in the sand because you can say, you know what? Joe and Betty, the reason you need this service is because of this concern that we just looked like over here. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do this, this, and this. And we believe it's going to, take us this much time to assemble and deliver this service in its entirety. Maybe it's 4 to 6 hours of myself and my team's time. And by us going through this process, we're going to uncover an additional $75,000 for you over the course of your lifetime. So what I've just done is I've pivoted from showing them something that they need to have awareness of, something that they need to acknowledge and they need to address and deal with. And now I've gone over and showed them the solution, the service, the operation, if you will. And then I put 2 things out there. I quantified the amount of my time that's going to go into making it happen. And I quantified what it could potentially mean for them. Sometimes this could be, something you're saving them. Sometimes it could be some, amount of risk that you're decreasing, income that you're adding, the number of things. But we work with advisors to help them hone in on how exactly do you have this conversation? How do you work through each service on the engagement letter to slowly go through and build what we call the mountain of time and money on the table? Because Mike, if I go through that process with you or with a client, and I've just addressed 7 services that you need that address a bunch of concerns and opportunities that we looked at over here, and along the way, there was 4 hours here, 3 hours here, 2 hours here. We get to the end of that, you're thinking, okay, so Matt is going to go through and he's going to be spending 16 to 18 hours on this plan. And along the way, I believe this is going to be worth $250,000 to our family over the course of our retirement. Right. Now, when I go in and I ask for a $3,000 planning fee, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, he's going to be working 16 to 18 hours and this is worth $300,000 or $250,000 or whatever. Of course, why wouldn't I pay $3,000? But if I'm just product salesman guy and I'm not selling on services, and what I did was they came into the meeting and I said, hey guys, I actually did your plan for you. Take a look at it. Here's these illustrations. Here's these hypotheticals. Do you want to buy this?
Right.
And oh, by the way, I'll take $3,000 for it. It's like you said, it's bass backwards. So we have a system and a process for flipping that and positioning you just like that estate planning attorney, just like that CPA.
Yep. So again, think high altitude for a moment, and let's even backtrack, because we've had previous conversations, which again, I would encourage you, if you didn't dial into the previous conversations on these topics, you're going to want to go back and string this together. But high altitude, if you're running some kind of an event, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's live and in public, one of the things that is most important to take place at that event is staging the first appointment and what's going to happen and the value of what that first appointment is, so that people realize why they want that first appointment. And then when you're at the first appointment, you're going to do the same thing again. By the end of the first appointment, you're going to stage why it is they want to come into the second appointment. So between now and the next time we get together, I'm going to review all this material. I'm going to crunch some numbers. I'm going to do some analysis. I'm going to identify the points and areas in which I believe we can create the most value for you, so that now you can make an educated decision as to whether or not you like to engage the services of me and my firm. People are like, oh, great. So again, everything we're saying, we're not doing the work in advance, but we're going to tell you what work we think needs to be done and what its value would be to you. And then they come in now for this second appointment that we're talking about here currently. And now we're actually going to reveal to them what that analysis found and the suggestions and the recommendations we're making, as in the services that they need that are created or that are being valued and delivered by our firm. And so then what becomes for sale at the end of the second appointment is, in fact, that engagement letter. Would you like to engage our services on your behalf? At the end of that second appointment, in everyone's book, whether you charge fees or you didn't charge fees, and again, keep in mind, we're not selling any product here. This is just an engagement between you and the firm. At that point in time, everybody knows at the end of that second appointment if they're a client of the firm or they're not. Right? As Yogi Berra says, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. We're going to make them take this fork in the road. They have to choose. Are they going to join the firm? Are they not going to join the firm? And if they don't, that's okay. Right? We've got plenty of other people to talk to, but if they join the firm, now you're going to apply your resources to helping these people. And then you go down through the rest of the planning process.
And what happens here, I know we have to wrap up, but we got to sneak this in. The rest of the planning process is going to become so much more meaningful to both you and the client, because when they engage you to assemble and deliver these services, and let's say service number one is an income plan, and you sit down and in meeting 3, you say, all right, Joe and Betty, here's your income plan. I built it out using the asset cycle portfolio system. We went out, we shopped the marketplace, and here's what we're doing. We're using this tool, this tool, this tool, and this tool. Now I'm not having to pitch these products to get them to become a client of the firm. Now they're just going to say, oh yeah, well, of course we're going to do that. That's what we engaged you to do, is go build that plan. Maybe we even paid a fee for it. Of course, let's just do it. So what we find is clients just kind of go along with the work that you've done. Why? Because they asked you to do it and you delivered what they asked you to do. It's kind of a very different experience than what most advisors stumble through when they're talking product.
And yet, when you lay it all out, it's so logical, and you can see immediately why it works so well. So that's the beauty of it, if you will. So we have covered so much ground in the last few discussions, Matt, and honestly, we've left so much more out there to discuss further. I would hope that I can invite you back again in the near future, and we'll dive deeper on some of these topics and get into some other topics in addition. So this has been the Rare Advisor. If you like this, if you're gaining value from this, please like, subscribe, comment. It's what keeps us moving. Make sure that we're providing you the content that's of importance to you as a financial advisor. Again, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening in a podcast, doesn't really matter to us. We just want to know if we're on track for you and this is being valued. So thank you so much. We'll keep this rolling. I'll be back again with you in the near future for more topics on the Rare Advisor. Thank you, everyone.